my channel. Today I'm going to be putting the new Blendiful from Tati Beauty to the test. So they just launched this last week on their website. It comes with a larger puff and a smaller puff. These retail for $18 on the Tati Beauty website, and I went ahead and picked one up just so that I could kind of play around with it and give you guys my thoughts on it. I'm going to do two different applications in this video. So in the first application, you will see me use mostly cream products, meaning foundation, concealer. I use cream contour, cream blush, cream bronzer, cream highlighter, and then I did powder a little bit using this larger puff. But tomorrow I'm going to come back and I want to see how this works using actual powdered blush and powdered bronzer and stuff like that, just so that I can get a really good feel for the product. And then at the end, I will come back and give you guys my final thoughts. I feel like that would probably be the best way to review this product, just so that I can give it a really good test. Today I'm wearing mostly cream products, and even though my skin is reflecting a little bit off the lights, once I shut the lights off, my skin actually looks really nice. I'm curious how this is gonna work. I'm curious to come back tomorrow and also apply powder products with it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first application. Okay, so let's get playing with the new Blendiful. So I got both of these right here in my package, and then on the back it says cleaning instructions: machine wash and dry in a delicate laundry bag or gently hand wash in warm soapy water, rinse thoroughly and blot dry. Do not bleach, do not dry clean. It is 100% polyester. It's cruelty free, vegan, and all of that jazzy jazz. I'm gonna just grab it like I would a brush, I guess, and start applying it on my face. Now, I did watch Laura Lee's video, and I wanted to see how she used it, what products she used with it, because I was just curious. It seemed to work really good for her, so I am very curious. So far, it is blending my foundation out nicely. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see it through camera, but this is blending out nicely. The thing that I will say is that it's not really absorbing the foundation either. So everything is blending and like rubbing into my skin good. The pad, I don't feel like is absorbing it like a beauty blender does. Okay, can you guys see the swipe marks? Okay, so I'm gonna try to get rid of that. So I'm gonna go on this corner and just see if that will, like a dry part of the sponge or whatever this thing is called, will kind of get rid of the swipe marks. I didn't have it really all over my face, but I did up there on the forehead. So let's just see if the dry part of this, which it does seem like it's working, like it seems like it's getting rid of the swipe marks, right? Like it looks pretty blended. This is the part that I used to blend out the foundation. So then I grabbed this part that was clean and just kind of went over those swipe marks, and it blended it right out into my skin. So this is promising. I'm kind of excited to see how this is gonna work. You guys know that my preferred way to apply my foundation and stuff is I like to kind of put an even layer all over the face with a brush, then kind of going into my skin with a damp sponge. And I feel like it's doing the exact same thing that a brush and a sponge would do. Like, I don't know that it works better. I feel like it works about the same. I'm gonna go ahead and apply a little bit of this concealer under my eyes. Okay, I can already tell that that kind of picked up more of the product than I wanted it to, because I used a dry part of the sponge. I don't love how it picked up more of the product than my brush does, because again, when I put on my concealer, I like to blend it out with a brush and then go over it with a sponge or a finger and kind of melt it into the skin. But I feel like this picked up, like right here in this area, it picked up a lot of the product. And this side, I am using the part that I blended out my foundation with, because I do feel like, because I went in on a dry spot, it picked up more of the concealer than I wanted it to. The smaller one is not as soft. I know that the smaller one is more for like a concealer or like a puff to kind of, you know, be able to kind of pick up oils throughout the day, which is nice. But the difference is this one is much harder than this one. Like this one is very, very soft, and this one is not as soft. This one has much more of a bend to it. This one, you can hear it. This one doesn't have that. So the inside is different. So I'm gonna grab my contour stick from KKW Beauty. This one is in shade dark, but it's a little bit too dark. But this is a concealer stick that I use pretty much every day. I go between this one and the Charlotte Tilbury Contour Wand. So let's blend this out. So far, I really like this for contour. And I'm using this spot where it has foundation on it because, as we all know, you know, if you're using like a brush or a sponge or whatever that has foundation on it to blend out your contour, it can be a little bit, it makes it blend a little bit better, and it gives you a little bit more of a natural contoured look. My contour is hard for me because I have such ridges in my forehead. And I have thin skin on my forehead as well. So those are both against me. Every time I try to use a contour palette or powder contour, it doesn't blend like a cream contour into my forehead. Like even, like you can see I have all of these little ridges, and I don't know, the cream just works so much better. It just does. So I'm gonna first grab this, which is the Charlotte Tilbury. This is her beach sticks, and normally I just kind of like do this like tapping motion and kind of tap this. This is in the shade Ibiza, so this is more of like the bronzer shade, I guess. So I'm gonna go ahead and blend that out. Okay, so that blends out good. I mean, it does blend out these cream products really nice. As far as blush, I'm gonna grab this from Nudestix. This is the Nudie Matte. This is in the shade Sunset Strip. I'm just gonna place a little bit of this on my cheek where I want some color. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of the beach stick in the shade Moon Beach. Okay, so far so good. Now this is kind of my routine during the summer. I wear a lot of cream products in the summer. I really love that fresh, dewy looking skin in the summer. It's my favorite. I like it in the winter too, but I definitely love it in the summertime. Let's go ahead and put on some powder. So I'm gonna use my Hourglass setting powder. And normally I take my brush in there and start going to town, but I think I'm gonna grab maybe this part of the sponge and let's just see what this does. I think for powder, I might prefer a brush just because a brush is going to kind of blend everything together, you know, like doing that swirly motion. But right now I'm just kind of patting everything in. But it's actually working really good. Holy crap. This is interesting. Okay, not bad at all. I'm kind of surprised by this. Okay, I think I'm gonna take this small little corner and just go right up underneath on my concealer. Put a tiny bit of that on there. I have to admit, this works really good for powder. Better than I thought it was going to be. I was a little bit kind of like, I don't know how I'm going to love the way that this applies powder, but this actually applies it really nice. And let me just say this, I didn't bake. You guys know I don't like to bake, but I love the way that this little spongy thing like pressed the powder right here in this area without me baking. I'm really, really impressed with this so far. based on applying powder. Like, I do think I would prefer to apply my powder like right here in this area, just to kind of buff all of the edges. But the point I'm making is like right here in this area, this is the area that I don't like to bake because I don't like my powder to get cakey and gross right here. And it just does. Like every single time I try to bake, I will take my sponge, I will dampen it, I will get all the water out, I will do all the steps that everybody says that you need to do, and then I will go in and do that baking process. And it looks pretty for a minute, but it gets cakey on me, and I hate the way it looks. But I have to admit, I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but like this right here looks gorgeous. I am so impressed with the way that that sponge pressed that powder over top of that area. Because normally my next step would be to go into that area. Because I don't bake, I take my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finishing Powder and I press it right over top of those areas right there, because when I use a brush to apply the powder, it doesn't press it like a sponge does. But every single time I press it with a sponge, it looks cakey and gross. Even if I've tried it so many different ways, and I gave up. This is gorgeous, the way that it presses the makeup in. I'm really impressed with it. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab this, which is my favorite product, my favorite powder. I'm gonna grab a tiny bit, which is probably too much, and I'm just gonna go over top of that area that I was talking about. Okay. Holy shit. This is pretty. So I have this little stick highlighter from YSL. I'm gonna grab a little bit here on the sponge and, oh, that looks pretty, doesn't it? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's do this again. Yes, that looks so pretty. Oh, I brought it up too high. Oopsie poopsie. I think I like this sponge. I don't know, but my freaking pores right here look gorgeous. Okay, so this is day 2, and I'm excited to try this little thing out again. As you guys probably just saw the clip of me cleaning it. It's been sitting here for about 30 or 40 minutes since I washed it, and it's pretty well dry. I've only used it once, and I've only cleaned it once, and it's already starting to pull apart right here, so the stitching is coming off. I'll have to email them and let them know, you know, maybe they can send me a replacement. But it wasn't as easy to clean as I thought it was going to. I was really hoping that it was going to be a little bit easier, maybe something like a beauty blender. But it's definitely a little bit harder to clean than a beauty blender. You know, things like that happen sometimes in manufacturing. You know, that doesn't mean it's going to happen to yours. It happened to me, doesn't mean it's gonna happen to you. The foundation, I'm gonna grab my Tom Ford Traceless foundation. I'm gonna use this corner of it, or maybe I should use a different corner. Maybe I'll use this corner, and I'm just gonna start kind of blending it out, but let's zoom you guys in first. I wanna have you guys zoomed in for the important part so that you guys can actually see what I'm doing, you know? I will say the only thing that is hard to get used to is that I'm so used to like cleaning my beauty blenders before I start doing my makeup. And with this, to have it ready for the next day so you don't have to wait for it to dry, you have to clean it after you get done. And that's kind of hard for me to remember. It's just another habit that I would have to get used to, you know what I mean? That blended everything out really nicely. Last night before I washed my makeup off, I went to look at my makeup and kind of inspect it. And I did still really like the way that this applied my powder, because I felt like my powder just really looked beautiful, especially right here in this area. But the thing that I didn't like is that it seems like I ended up using a lot more foundation than I normally do. And here's the thing. I think because I use a brush to kind of smooth all of the foundation out, and then I use a sponge to like press it into the skin, it seems like the sponge picks up any of the extra product that this didn't. So that's something you're going to have to be mindful when using something like this. You need to make sure that you are not using too much foundation. Still having the swiping issues, but if you go to use this and you're having the swiping issues where you can kind of see the swipes along the face, all I do is just kind of pat it. Patting it into the skin will kind of get rid of those swirly spots. I'm going to grab this concealer that I have been testing out, which you guys will see my full review of this tomorrow. This is the Dior Forever Skin Correct Concealer. It's brand new on the market. I have it in the shade 3W. So I'm going to put a little bit of this concealer right here in this area. So I'm curious how this will like blend this out. I just did not like the way that this blended out that Hourglass concealer. It just did not look good. See, like right here, can you guys see that? It's not smooth right there. That's kind of that sponge mark. So I'm going to add just a little bit more right there. That looks better, but honestly, I don't really love this product for concealer. It's just not my favorite way to apply my concealer. Okay, so I went ahead and did my brows off camera, but I do want to mention really fast, both times I have used this sponge, I have hated my brows, and I've had to take my makeup wipe and wipe off my brows, fill in my foundation like right around my brows, and then do my brows. But I think what's happening is this is putting too much foundation in my brows, so then they look kind of dirty looking. You know how it is when you get foundation in your brows. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't look crisp and clean. They look kind of dirty. Don't go in like I was and kind of just blending it all over your face. Be very careful around the brows because it's just like you would if you were using a brush, but it's a little bit harder because it's so much bigger than a brush. Okay, so I have this little gap right here. I'll have to fix that in a second. I'm just gonna keep kind of like pouncing it in and maybe add a tiny bit right there. So for my bronzer, I am gonna use my Hourglass Radiant Bronze Light. I'm gonna grab this part, which is where I was using the contour. Takes a little bit longer than it does with a brush, but you know, the nice thing is that if you do get a little bit of like choppiness or muddiness when, you know, applying your bronzer or your contour or whatever, going in with a little bit of powder and kind of buffing it out is magic. The thing I will say that I do like about this particular sponge, is that I do like how it really blends stuff into my hairline. I am notorious for not really getting my bronzer or my contour right up in that hairline, just because I have like a massive pet peeve when it comes to foundation and stuff in my hair. It drives me nuts. So I'm gonna grab this Hourglass blush. I'm saving this corner for powder, so I don't want to get anything on this corner. So I'm just gonna go into a corner and just start applying the blush. Ooh. It applies the blush really nice. And then I'm gonna grab this Milani Luminoso. It's my favorite to put right on the apples of the cheek. I think it's so pretty. So I'm gonna go down inside here. Ooh, that picks up a lot, you guys. Picks up more than I wanted it to. So now the trick's gonna be to get rid of my clown look and blend all of this together with using the powder, because normally this is the step that I go in with my powder and buff all of this in, kind of pull it together and buff out all the edges, calm everything down. I got some of the Hourglass powder here, so I am gonna grab some right here and just start kind of doing this with it, I guess. I don't know. It's like, I don't know whether to swipe or pat, you know? Like, that's the hard part about using this for powder. It's hard to know if I should be swirling it like this and kind of buffing it in or patting it in, you know what I mean? Like, it's gonna take a minute, and I think we're all probably gonna have our own way of using it that way. Now see what I just did with the powder around the brows? That's what I recommend doing when you are applying your foundation, because getting it in your brows is kind of a pain in the butt. I'm going to kind of fold it in half like this, and I'm going to grab a little bit that's left in the pan here, and I'm going to press this over top of my pores like I did yesterday, because so far what I'm noticing is that's what I love most about this little spongy thing, whatever it is. It really presses the powder onto the skin so softly. But much better than a sponge for me personally. Okay, let's move on to the Charlotte Tilbury powder. I'm going to go down into the powder just a tiny bit and go right over top of the pores. Because I will say that is probably what I love most about this little spongy thing, is the way that it applies my powder. It's so pretty. Let's go ahead and apply some highlighters. So I'm going to take this little piece and I'm going to grab some and kind of pat some here on the cheek. I do like the way it applies highlighter too. It's really pretty. It does it in a very beautiful, like very soft but direct area. Okay, so let me get into my final thoughts about this. Definitely, I would say the number one thing that I love about this is the way that it applies my powder right here in this area. I just struggle baking. The thing that I love about this is the way that I can go down into that powder and press it over top of the pores, and it blends just so beautifully into my pores. I love that about this sponge. And also, I carry a Airbrush Flawless Finishing powder in my purse with me. So I'm gonna be using this little guy right here to, you know, kind of press this. The thing that I love about this powder is that I can reapply it throughout the day and it doesn't get gross and cakey. So I will definitely be using the smaller one, just putting it in my purse for that reason. Now I do know that she mentioned in her video that this is really great to use to apply a pore filling primer right there. So if you do have enlarged pores and you use a pore filling primer, I could see how this would really kind of press that product into the pores, because of the way that it presses the powder into the pores. For that reason alone, I'm glad to have it. I think, you know, I don't know that everybody's gonna need this. Will it replace my other products? Probably not. But I also love the way that it blends my product into my hairline, like my contour and stuff. I loved that. The other thing that I want to mention, that you guys know that both days that I've used this, I haven't loved the way that it applies my concealer. But if you want to use it for your concealer, I recommend, which I kind of regret doing it, not doing it now, but kind of curving it, because I kind of forgot that you can kind of roll it up, but kind of going in there and blending it out like that versus doing it like this. Because trying to do it like this, it doesn't give you the right angle. It's not that easy to do. But if you roll it, you can really get up in there. We're all going to use it for different things, and we're all going to like it for different things. For me personally, based on just using it the 2 days and using it in many different ways that I can, those are the things that I like the most about it. It's not going to replace a lot of my brushes that I absolutely love. So take everything that I said, you know, dial it all down, decide if this is something that you are interested in spending your money on. And if it's something that you need to add to your application. If it's not, I wouldn't worry about picking it up. So I also want to mention that, let's just say that you are like me and you forget to wash it after using it. You can take this little ribbon and put it on the other side and use this side. So this is reversible, which I really appreciate. You can totally just reverse it and now you have a full clean side. So I hope that this review was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, definitely let me know in the comments down below. I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. So that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and I love you all so much. Bye.